haven't. There's a few of them in here. Da- Damon's sick. I don't know where he went. I don't know where Tammy is. Or Randy.
Who's Randy here? Okay. Randy's not gonna be here. Oh, there's Tammy.
Most of it. Yes. Some people know me.
Oh, we switched, huh?
Yeah, it,
So where am I at today? You're way down there.
who knows? Next week it'll be different too.
I don't know which one I'm on. This one or that one? It's that one. Oh, man, I like my chair too. I got the short chair.
How's Eric? How's it going?
There's another question. I didn't bring my papers.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I call the meeting to order. This is the Oroville Planning Commission and Historical Advisory Commission. We're wearing two hats tonight.
Are we not being recorded?
I wasn't sure if you wanted to say.
You were gonna have to pledge, so
I am. That's next. We just called the order first, and then I got to read the instructions for conducting the meeting.
I haven't called the roll yet.
That's what I said, didn't I say call the roll?
Yeah, that's,
Oh, call the roll.
That's close.
Commissioner Sears,
Here.
Commissioner Britton,
Here,
Commissioner Chapman, Commissioner Jenkins,
Here.
Commissioner Flicker,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Durling,
Here.
Chairperson Robinson.
Okay, all open your eyes, please.
Behind
To
you.
the flag.
right there. I need that too.
Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Now I'll read the instructions. If you'd like to address the commission at this meeting, you are requested to complete the blue speaker request form located on the wall by the agendas over there, and hand it to the city clerk, who's seated to my left. The form assists the city clerk with minute taking and assists the chair in conducting an orderly meeting. Providing personal information on the form is voluntary. For scheduled agenda items, please submit the form prior to the conclusion of the staff presentation for that item. And generally speaking, speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Okay. Approval of the minutes of the last meeting. We do have minutes here, don't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is this thing on?
Anyone have any changes or?
I'll make a motion to accept the April 25th, 2019 minutes.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve and a second for the minutes.
That's all we get.
Voting is complete. Does anybody wants to change their vote?
Motion carries.
Okay. This is a little different. Here we go. We don't have an agenda item for this.
It's actually item 1.
Mr. Chair, yes, if you, right under the approval of the minutes is the public hearing.
It's on the first page.
It would be on page 2.
The back
Yeah,
side.
all right. State Theater sign and marquee restoration project. I have the staff report.
Yes, Mr. Chair and Commissioners.
I don't think you're on.
How's this? Okay. Mr. Chair and Commissioners and assembled members of the public, my name is Wes Irvin. I am your new city planner, contract planner. Not with us tonight is Leo DiPaula, who is the new community development director. So you now have a planning staff, and hopefully we can help you make good decisions in the future as we move forward. Briefly, the item before you is a key project of the State Theater renovation, which has been an ongoing partnership of both the city and the State Theater Arts Guild, or STAGE, for several years, with funding wherever and whenever it can be arranged. If you approve these actions tonight, the Commission's actions would allow STAGE to utilize about $350,000 of supplemental benefits funds to recreate the theater's original 1920s, 1930s Grand Marquee. And if you look at the screen, I believe that the one they're trying to recreate is the color picture number 3.
Ah,
So it has a 7-foot extension marquee that's fully lit, and that 22-foot vertical sign banner. The new marquee will hang over the sidewalk about 7 feet, the same distance as the existing overhang, and it will not interfere with the street or pedestrian traffic in any way. You've been asked by the applicant to hold tonight's special meeting on this item due to STAGE's need to contract immediately with the sign fabricator so that it can be ready and operational for their October 14th fall kickoff event. The item before you includes 4 recommended action. First, a landmark modification approval with its findings. This requires at least 1 public hearing by either the Development Review Committee or the Planning Commission. Proper notice has been sent to all landowners within 300 feet and was also published in the local newspaper. In addition, the State Historic Preservation Officer has concurred with this project. As the Historic Advisory Commission, secondly, you need to approve this historic project because it is in the downtown historic overlay. Third, a sign permit, which is larger in area than the sign ordinance allows, but which the Historic Advisory Commission may approve as a contributing feature in the downtown historic overlay district. So you're not bound to maximum areas and other parameters that are in the sign ordinance. And lastly, possible removal of the existing corner street light. If approved, the marquee in its night light mode would take over the street lighting function, and the street light would be superfluous. I forgot to mention that there are 3 trees, that 2 of which would be cut down, and 1 nearby would also be cut down, so that the marquee could be easily seen. So, thank you. I'll stop there, and I remain at the commission's disposal.
Okay, we'll open the hearing. The applicant have a presentation.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Jim Mall. I'm president of the State Theater Arts Guild. And in addition to the pictures which you have on the screen, I have the current rendering of what the design company that we have engaged with has presented as to what the new marquee will look like. One of the challenges we faced is the fact that the original marquee was removed by the United Artists Group in the 1970s when they owned the theater, and unfortunately they didn't appreciate the historic value of the sign, and it was tossed out. So the replacement is the undistinguished, fortunately it's not on there, the undistinguished marquee which you see up on the front of the theater today. We have engaged a company, they are an artisan company, Duarte Designs, to facilitate the reconstruction. This is a source of plans before the commission tonight. They have been instrumental in many of the historic sign restorations throughout California. As was mentioned in the earlier comments, we are working with the State Historic Preservation Office, or SHPO, to make sure that we're in line with the registration requirements and the Heritage Grant covenants. They have reviewed our plans, provided some comments, and we've incorporated those comments into the design. The blade sign will be lighter and easier to mount on the building, which will eliminate the steel structure that was on the original building and sign. SHPO has said that these are organic alterations that would have probably been made over the last 40 or 50 years in any case. We've been in contact with several downtown businesses, particularly those who are the immediate neighbors, and I'll present to the clerk a letter from Brian Wong, who is the owner of Tong Fong Lo, in support of the restoration. Also a letter from Rudy Marcosi of Marcosi Jewelers, and at their meeting this morning, the Oroville Downtown Business Association Administration also signed a letter of support for our application. We think it will have a very positive effect on the downtown area. There's the non-exciting marquee, which is currently on the front of the building that you're all familiar with, and that will be gone. As was mentioned, our goal is to have this in place and operational by the end of September, first part of October. We intend to have a major event to unveil it, which will hopefully also be the time when the city of Oroville hands over the keys of ownership for the State Theater to the State Theater Arts Guild. We're currently in negotiations with the city to accomplish that. We have opened escrow, and that's the next big step on our agenda. So we would appreciate certainly any questions that you might have, and certainly the endorsement of the commission tonight for our plan.
You have questions of the applicant?
I do. Jim? I don't even know if. The three trees we're talking about, is the one in front, the one on the side, and the one at Marcosi's, is that correct?
No, it's actually one more on the side of the State Theater.
So it's down towards, Tom Fong Road.
Yeah, down towards
on
the
State Theater
parking
side.
lot, right.
I was a little confused on what three trees they were, because I drove by there, and I drove up the street and then came back down, and I did notice that the one at Marcosi's does kind of block the view of that, but I didn't know.
And incidentally, those trees were already slated for removal by the Parks Department because of the damage they've been doing to the sidewalk. And so we are simply accelerating the removal of those trees as part of this project.
And it says here that you're in works with the city parks on determining who will cover the costs of the removal. Has
Right.
that been decided or no?
I don't believe it has.
Well, good for you for taking over ownership. In October, November.
It's a big step for our group, and, you know, it could not have been done, certainly without the support of the city of Oroville, the current owners. Could not have been done without the supplemental benefits and the redevelopment agency. All of those groups have certainly helped us. None of that would have mattered if we had not had significant community support. And that's what's been the most encouraging for our group as we have progressed towards ownership, is the significant volunteer support, the significant financial support that we've received from our community.
And the sign itself, is that a neon sign, or is it the new neon?
I think it's the new neon, as I recall. Part neon, part LED, yeah.
The old neon, you had to have a starter and all.
Yes, I understand that was quite a process to actually illuminate the old neon signs.
Yeah, is it a little easier to upkeep this kind of sign than it is the old sign?
It should be much easier, certainly just because of the life span of the LED lights. The programming itself, right now, our volunteers have to climb out on that ledge underneath the marquee to change the coming events. The new marquee will all be computerized, so that will go away. That hazard, that risk will go away.
And the light that you see in this picture right here, that's the one you're gonna.
That's the one right in the middle of the picture there by the column of the theater will be gone.
The only other comment that I had was, you said that the lighting from the sign will actually overtake the light that is there, the street light.
Yes, by quite a bit, we believe.
Yeah, and is there any residents that live in that? I'm not real sure. I don't think, the only residents would be up the street.
Just across from the railroad tracks, as close as I can, I don't know of any other residents immediately there. There's none across the street in the city of Paris. There's none at either above the retail suites at the theater or at the Copa. So I believe the only ones will be there.
I wasn't, that was one of my questions. I didn't know
Right.
if there was any residents there. Very good. Thank you.
You have a question? Go ahead.
I have a couple of questions. So these letters here will be computer generated?
Yeah, actually what we've done is.
I know you used the old ones.
Yeah, we use the old ones, so it'll be a little bit, and it'll all be computer generated.
Now, what is the material on this? Like, is it made of metal, glass? What is
It's
it?
actually aluminum.
Aluminum.
So that's one of the reasons that we're able to hang the sign without significant additional structural support, is because it's significantly lighter.
How will it defend itself from thrown objects?
Well, I guess like any other, there really isn't any.
It would just break
You
my
know,
heart if
well,
something,
it
somebody did
certainly
something
would.
to it.
I guess we'd hunt them down. No, I guess we wouldn't. But I don't know exactly how we get around that. The company that we have engaged for this project has been very supportive and said that they can provide not only ongoing support, but if we ran into warranty issues or issues with service, they're there. I believe they're located in Sacramento.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. So back to the trees again.
Yes.
I hate to see those beautiful trees right in the front go, but I understand the two on the corner. Does that third one, it's halfway down the block. Does that have to go? I mean,
Hang on just one moment. I'll turn to the staff.
Okay.
Oh, it is the Marcosi one, the one that you had mentioned.
but it's on this side, but it's all
So
the way
we have
back.
We have the two in front of the theater and the one across the street at Marcosi's.
No, there's, when I went by, I thought I saw, when you Google it, you can see the one in the front, around the corner, one here, and then there's about same block. There's another 30, 40 feet, there's another tree.
We're not gonna take that one out. I'm
Oh.
sorry, that was my confusion.
Okay,
It's
that's-
actually the one that Mr. Britton had indicated across the street from Marcosi's.
Okay,
Yeah, in front of Marcosi's.
okay, that makes a little bit more sense. Okay. That street lamp's been there since 1930. Can they use it anywhere else
You
or
know,
do anything with
in-
it?
As a matter of fact, you probably recall that used to be a stoplight. At that corner, those four streetlights were actually converted from stoplights. It used to be in downtown. It's my understanding they do have another use for it in
Okay.
the city, but I don't know where.
Okay.
We met with Chief Lagrone and discussed some of these issues. We're also working with Wade Atterbury in the Parks Department, and they believe they have another use for that.
Okay. A couple more things. So I know it's historical, is what we're trying to bring it back, which I see as reds and golds, and I don't see neon back in the blues and the hot pinks back in the 20s and 30s. This is daytime? But even at night, it wasn't hot pink and blue, was it?
Well, the only thing that we have is the black and white photography, which is just black and white.
Right.
But our experts literally went down and measured the grays and figured to the best of their ability what those colors were, and that's what they think it is.
That last, that one, has, that blade sign, which is the one we're talking about,
Correct.
was neon.
Because you can go and look at other state theaters
Right.
that are very similar, that have the blade and everything, and I just don't see that color. I
And
wasn't
again,
sure.
our real challenge here was to find something that was historically accurate without anything to reference it.
Yeah, this
So,
looks like more like 70 disco to me than.
actually, the company, yeah, the company that we are working with has actually designed and installed similar blade signs. In fact, many of the ones you probably had seen were the result of these of this company. One of the challenges that one picture which is up there, which is the red, is actually a colorized photo. It's not actually. It's interesting. My wife grew up here in town. She said, you know, there was more maroon in that sign originally than red. And I said, well, we're certainly aware of the fact that there are going to be a lot of folks whose only reference is that colorized photo, which is more red than maroon.
Yeah.
Those signs, incidentally, excuse me, those signs actually were pretty gaudy back in the 20s and 30s. I mean,
I like those,
Well,
though,
no, I
because that
understand, but
looks
they will
historical.
definitely be. It will definitely look like it was the original, but they were quite gaudy. Lots of color, yeah, Art Deco, lots of color.
Architecture of downtown and the red bricks and the old time feel. And then I see the colors and then I went, those clash to me. Whereas then I see the old time, the red and the gold and the yellow. But
Right.
again, not knowing what they were at night, I wasn't around then.
Me neither.
Okay.
I was around, just not around here.
Okay. Well, I wasn't even around. I noticed the sign The Blade had a variation, it's 22 feet, where our city only says allows for 20. Is there a reason that it couldn't be brought down to the code of what the
What
city,
we
there was a
actually
couple of things.
decided was to bring it back to as historically accurate size-wise as we could.
Okay. Because there's a couple of things I guess we had to agree to
Right.
with the Blade and something around the front of it. Oh, the amount of
Right.
words or, yeah, it's a lot. Those aren't apartments that are right next door upstairs, all of those?
No, those are actually, it's actually vacant space above those retail outlets. We had been in negotiations prior to our discussions with the city to take over ownership. That whole area up there has been used for storage for seats out of the theater and whatnot, and we had actually been talking to this city about using that for the actual office for stage. But it's all blank upstairs. There's no living
So it's
quarters up
actually
there.
connected to the theater?
Yes.
They're not
there's-
singles going up throughout
No.
the street? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. I think I asked enough questions.
Yeah, I have a question. Will the marquee be a static image or will it be animated?
Well, let's see. When you talk about animated, yes. I'm going to refer to our local historian on the theater, David Dewey.
The bottom circle of the city blade sign, we believe rotated, so it's somewhat animated. And then that bottom blue and red likely alternated. Now, we can include that in the design, but we can also include the ability to turn it off. So, we want to try to do everything that is as accurate as possible, but if it's a problem, we also have the ability to just go to the solids.
What about the digital light board? When you put a movie or a show up there, it'll be the only thing there and it'll stay. There won't be
Yeah.
a video or anything playing.
The
They did-
software actually replicates even the steel rods that held the old
Okay.
letters. It's very impressive how much it looks just like what
Okay.
it was there.
So it won't be like a digital billboard.
Yeah, it
No.
won't be.
Okay.
It'll look
Scrolling or anything, it
No.
just sits.
Okay.
The other thing that will be appreciated is very often, because it does require volunteer help to get out on that ledge and change the marquees. Sometimes there are events that are being held and the marquee is outdated. That won't be an issue because we'll be able to sit inside in the comfort of the theater and actually program it to take over with the actual ongoing events as they happen. The mayor actually mentioned that I believe his State of the City address was not on there when he was prepared to do that. And I assured him next year with the new sign, we'd be able to have it up there.
Actually, even worse is with the old sign, they had a pickup truck with a ladder in the back, the guy would climb up.
That was
There's a
prior to
liability,
OSHA. I'm-
yeah.
So we're quite happy that we can replicate that. And Duarte Designs has done this for decades, and they analyzed, we gave them some very clear black and white pictures, and they go in and they analyze the neon tube, determine whether it was a pink or a blue, what kind of colors it could have been.
Kind of along the same line that Hollywood has used to colorize old black and white films. They take the density of the black and the gray and are able to determine the color palette as a result of that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No, I'm good. I have one. I think the answer's yes. The number 4, is that the marquee, is that a 3-section? What this shows is 3 sections.
Yes, that is 3
So
sections.
like one's on the corner of the building and then wraps around too?
Probably number 2 is a better example of what it,
Used to look like,
right.
yeah.
And look, there's a light pole there too.
Huh?
I think that's a close-up of that, you know what I'm saying? It's
Yeah, okay. So it's gonna have the same configuration as,
Actually, it's going to be 5-sided.
well, that's what I was,
Yeah, I'm
Because-
sorry, yeah. In looking at that, it's 5-sided actually with that across the, and that would be original.
yeah, okay. Just kind of a historical note, my mother-in-law lived in Oroville a good part of her life since 1935. And being a planner, I grilled her a lot about the history and everything else, and she loved her future husband and her dated by going to the theater, and she remarked to me about the colors were so bright and cheerful and illuminated downtown and so forth. So this is pretty cool.
This is part of our long-term goal to restore the theater both inside and out. This summer, we've already begun the restoration steps to restore the mural, which is you step inside the lobby is above the stairs that go up to the balcony area. That's been a real treasure hunt. That will continue throughout the summer. We're also going to be restoring the lobby. We're doing some temporary fixes in the lobby with carpeting. Long-term, it will look exactly as it did when it opened in 1928.
I assume you're still going to have the organ? After all?
Absolutely. The organ was probably, yes, my God, if we don't.
Some upset people if you don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd have to move out of town if we didn't
of
have that.
state.
Yeah, probably out of state. No, you know, that was really a crowning achievement, and I think probably was the thing that encouraged our group to pursue ownership of the theater.
Yep.
That the installation and restoration of the pipe organ cost probably somewhere north of $150,000. All of that was done with local money, local contributions, and it has had tremendous reception. You may know if you've attended any events at the theater where the organ was featured. When the theater was originally opened in 1928, only one of the two chambers for pipes was actually opened and useful because talkies came in. And so they never completed the installation of the pipes in the second chamber, which our group has done. So it is now a larger theater pipe organ than was in the original theater. And we are one of less than 400 theaters nationwide with an operating and historic theater organ. So yes, we won't be taking that organ out, I promise.
Any other questions?
Are they ever going to open up upstairs to the public?
Probably a
The
couple of
seating?
things that, and that is on the list, but it's not a high priority on the list. One of the challenges is, several years ago, our only fire escape from the second floor was knocked out and is not there anymore. In fact, if you walk out from Tong Fong Lo and look up, you'll
There's a
see
door.
two doors up there, which is where the fire escape used to be. It would probably still work if we were in a real big emergency and trying to get out of the building, but it wouldn't have a happy ending. So, number one is the fire escape. Number two is that all of our audio-visual equipment currently is right at the balcony's edge. So that would require us to get all of that moved and relocated probably to the projection booth or some other location.
I
So-
see shaking heads behind you.
yeah, that's gonna be a big project. The one thing that has often been discussed is, gee, there was some concern about earthquake safety.
That's when they shut it.
That was, and unfortunately, the city knows, based on an engineering study they did several years ago, that there is no earthquake hazard with that balcony. If you think about it, you know, people said, oh, well, by gosh. I said, well, we're seating people under that balcony. If it's an earthquake hazard, wouldn't that concern you? So it is not an earthquake hazard. That's
good to
one.
know.
Yeah, it is good to know. But that's going to be a significant undertaking. Access to the balcony would be an issue. Not everyone can navigate the stairs. So a lot of work to be done, and we think there'll be a lot of work in the lobby and in the main auditorium before we get back to the balcony. Along that line, one last thing, and I know I've run a little long here. The other thing is that it would be a great benefit to the theater because commercial programs and commercial shows that like to come to venues such as the State Theater look for auditoriums that can seat 1,000. Our auditorium can only seat just slightly over 600. So that is a bit of a drawback to our attracting large commercial programs. But again, if you had asked me 5 years ago this month that we'd be in a position when the city handed us the keys just to do the day-to-day operation, that 5 years later we'd be talking about the marquee, have the organ installed, look at taking over ownership, I would have thought you were
Batty.
perhaps in another Twilight Zone or something. So here we are, and again, it's been as a result of the significant support from both government agencies and from the community.
More questions? Okay, we'll close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I do have 2 public speakers.
Huh?
I do have 2 public speaker
Oh, I
cards.
didn't have we have 2 public speakers?
Yes, I have Mike Phelps and then Eric Smith.
I thought you were going to give me the things.
I have them.
Okay.
She normally does.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Phelps. I have been asked by Sean and Lori Pierce to speak on their behalf this evening. Sean and I, if you don't know, are partners in several things around this community, but they both couldn't be here this evening. But Sean wanted me to express to all of you their support for this marquee and blade sign. Those of you that know Sean, I think you know who I'm talking about. He is a major fan of history in this community. And we took one of these 11 by 17 drawings that showed the color and the lighting for what it is proposed to be. And if you know Sean, he gets giddy over these things. He's over the historic value of color and light and what have you. And he just wanted me to express his sincere support for this project this evening. So thank you.
Eric Smith?
Please grant a whole extra minute, right? Commissioners, appreciate the opportunity to speak before you. My hat tonight is not of City Council, but of the Chamber of Commerce. And I trust that Wes and Leon will be keeping you guys very, very busy in the months and the years to come. And I'm just very, very enthusiastic about all the business and all the opportunities that are coming to our community. That being said, as you know, the BID was just approved recently by the City Council, and which just goes to the enthusiasm that we have in our downtown amongst the merchants to just see a new day, new opportunity, new business. And so it's just very exciting times. It's great to see such positive energy coming to our community again. And I appreciate all your questions. I think it's important to thoroughly vet. In my other life when I was a general contractor, sometimes I didn't always appreciate those questions. But I think nevertheless they're important, and you have a very important role to play in that. But that being said, I'm fully behind this project. I think it's just another element of that restorative process that we're experiencing, that kind of the nostalgia that's coming to our community. So again, I just offer my full support as the CEO of the Oroville Chamber of Commerce, and so I appreciate a yes vote on this project. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that's the last public speaker.
Okay. We'll now officially close the public hearing. Any questions of staff? Okay. I'm awaiting a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number P2019-11.
Second, and I'm assuming this includes items 1 through 4.
That's not what it says in the resolution on here.
We're approving this as the Oroville Planning Commission and Historical Advisory Commission, so just make sure you understand that. So the motion covers both of those.
Both of those, it's still the same number though.
Still the same number,
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay. Okay. Any change in the voting? Voting is closed.
Motion carries.
Motion carried.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thanks for all your hard work.
I think that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
What
Yep.
else is on the
We will
agenda?
have a regular meeting at the end of the month.
Huh?
We are gonna have a regular, okay.
We're gonna what?
We will have a regular meeting at the end of the month,
At the end of the month,
June
yes.
27th.
and that
Okay.
one will have staff report,
Yeah,
the verbal reports and all that.
Making sure there was nothing else. Nothing from staff?
I can make a couple of comments very
Okay.
quickly. The June 27th meeting, the applicant from Haven of Hope has asked that this be put back on the agenda for continuation of the public hearing that you had in, I believe it was April, and then a decision. Since Leo and I are new to the city, we've been digging into and learning how to use the city codes, and have now almost eliminated the backlog in planning applications that were there. Moving forward, we will turn our attention to extending or asking for resubmittal of the 20 or so previously approved subdivisions. These represent about 2,500 new housing units that had already been approved, which would go a long way to mitigate the current housing crisis. We're starting to evaluate the permit intake and review processes, and we may make procedural changes to streamline, to use Trackit, which is our permit and project tracking system, to solicit timely comments from all appropriate departments and to add transparency to the process. In the next month or two, we may be suggesting reconvening some version of the Development Review Committee, which has not met in over a year. The DRC is supposed to be made up of 2 planning commissioners who sit on it on a rotating basis, one of whom chairs the committee. And also included are the zoning administrator, chief building official, fire marshal, director of public works, the economic development manager, and the director of parks and trees. This landmark alteration permit, for example, would have ordinarily been designated to Development Review Committee review. Over the next several months, we'll also be evaluating whether to recommend code updates and other changes. From time to time, we'll bring recommended changes to the commission for discussion and or action. And one we're looking at quite closely right now, starting to look at our alcohol sales permits to see, looks like every alcohol sales permit requires a use permit so far that comes to the Planning Commission. So we'd like to evaluate and look at that as it relates to the Alcohol Bureau, ABC permit process, and how the police review those right now, the police department review those right now. One of the suggestions of the police department is to eliminate single service sales at liquor store, where you can go in and buy 1 can of beer or 1 Bartles and James or the other types of ales. And that seems to be one of the enforcement issues and problems. So you may see that in the future moving forward to look at and think about. That's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
We a couple of us were on a committee, or whatever you want to call it, revising the sign ordinance, and it hasn't been happening for the last year and a half. Is that something also that would be kind of picking up again?
Sure, absolutely. We'll put it on the list. Thank you.
Is that the one that Randy was saying that you guys worked on for a year and a half?
Year and a
And then
half.
it just like
And it just
stopped?
died,
It
yeah.
just stopped. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
You'd
we'll
like
look
to see
for, some sort of file or folder on it, and
I think I still have my,
I know Randy would have
Draft,
his, because
yeah.
he talked about it to me.
yeah.
good,
I
thank
have
you.
my notes and stuff, I think somewhere. Might help you. Anyone else have any questions or anything? Okay, we'll close the hearing. or close the meeting, and, we-
Historical meeting?
huh?
Do we have to have,
Well, I'm closing planning commission.
okay, and
And
then,
now I'm gonna open
and we
the,
do have one, okay.
Yeah.
I wondered about that.
isn't that right?
They're both closed at the same time because they were both opened at the same
Okay,
time.
okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
I just
So I
closed
didn't
both
see
of
'em.
them then.
That works.
All right, and when's the date of the next meeting?
June 27th at 7 p.m.
June 27th, 7 PM here.